Today's conversation is sponsored by First Generation Capital Partners.
We buy crappy apartment buildings from landlords who aren't very good at their jobs. Our job here is to improve those buildings, make them clean and safe, upgrade them so that the folks that live there, they're proud to live in a Clark Street building. And so, I get to lay my head on the pillow every night with a clear conscience, knowing I'm doing a good thing, both for our residents as well as for our investor partners.
You're listening to the Going Long podcast with Billy Keels, the #1 podcast for long-distance real asset investing.
Welcome to the Going Long podcast. We're back once again to continue to help to educate you so you feel much more comfortable as well as confident investing beyond your backyard. I'm your host, Billy Keels, and you know what? We're back for another amazing episode. Today's conversation, you're really going to love it, especially if you're someone who's in the enterprise software space and you are looking to create your own path. But really quickly, I also want to say thank you to everyone who continues to be back and listen. And we continue to be in the top 1.5% of podcasts globally. Really appreciate you tagging us and communicating with us across Instagram, across LinkedIn. It's fantastic. So, and for those of you who are leaving your honest written reviews as well as ratings, we really appreciate that. And if you want to listen to any more or any of the more than 300 plus episodes, just go to firstgencp.com/podcast. Once again, that's firstgencp.com/podcasts. And you can check out every single episode, transcripts, video, audio, all that kind of good stuff. But today, you actually have two ex-enterprise software people that are talking about all the different skills that we learned, and we're able to use those skills even today and being able to perform at your role, which is really important, and also being able to create your own path for yourself, for your family. We're going to get to the conversation, and we're going to have that with Mr. Ed Mathews, and we'll get to that just after this. So you know what? If you've ever wanted to know how to go from enterprise software sales to successfully helping others to navigate the long distance investing journey, then guess what? Today's the conversation you're going to want to listen to until the very last word. Yes, I did say very last word, because you know what? Today's guest not only started his career in helping procurement executives maximize the value on software, strangely enough, he also then went on to be the senior vice president in field operations across all of North America. He was also COO, and he's been marketing director for the Connecticut RIA. You know what? As if that wasn't enough, he is also the host of the super popular podcast, The Real Estate Underground. I'm sure he's going to tell us a little bit more about that. And he's the founder and president of Clark Street Capital. It gives me great pleasure to welcome to today's conversation, Mr. Ed Mathews. Ed, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks, Billy. Good to see you. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing well, man. Doing well. Doing better than I probably should be, but it's all good, man. It's all good. We're ready for the Going Long family to get to know you. I love the energy in our pre-conversation, and you're going to get 5 questions. You're going to get 2 in the beginning. You're going to get 3 in the end.
Bring them on.
The thing is, in the middle, you're going to get a lot more questions. I just don't know what those questions are yet.
All right.
So here we go, man.
We're in this
together, man. Question number 1, and you know what it is. Help us understand. Where is it that you call home in the U.S.?
So I live in central Connecticut, and I have been more or less in Connecticut for all of about my entire life.
All right, fantastic.
Couple of stints in Boston and Jersey, but other than that, 45 of my 53 years here in Connecticut.
Right on, beautiful. So it's I was actually that way, not last summer, but depending on when people are listening to this, it could have been 8 summers ago. It could have been 2 summers ago. Anyway, right. I'm not going to do that. Here we go. That was question number 1. Question number 2, help us understand, what is the most positive thing that has happened to or for you in the last 24 hours?
Wow, 24 hours. Yeah. So my daughter is right now at a large university. She'll kill me if I tell you. So a large university in the Midwest, at a prospect softball camp, and they're trying to figure out if they're recruiting her or not, which is kind of cool. So I would call that a super positive thing, at least for her, and a proud papa.
All right, proud papa. I know what those moments are like. That's always fun, and kind of like cliffhanger, because I'm a Midwest kind of guy, or actually not kind of guy. I am from the Midwest, so we'll talk about that off camera. We'll talk about it off camera.
All right, cool.
So here's the thing. So we got kind of 2 questions that we're getting a chance to know you a little bit more. And I'm going to tell you something that I didn't tell you in the beginning. I'm a recovering perfectionist. I try to do things sometimes that are really not possible to do, like telling your entire backstory in, I don't know, is that like 1.75 seconds? Wasn't ever going to happen. So If you can do me
Right.
and the Going Long family a favor, Ed, can you share your backstory in your own words? Take as much time as you need. You can take a lot more than
Sure.
1.75 seconds. And I am going to ask you one other thing. If you can also talk about some of the major decisions that you made along the way, and then from there, we'll see where you and I take the conversation.
Okay, sounds good. So let's see. So I started my career in software consulting. It's been about 24, almost 25 years, slinging enterprise software and consulting services for, Silicon Valley companies. Some you've heard of, some you haven't. And the last one I was with was DocuSign. I've traveled the world, mostly Europe and North America, doing those jobs, and I loved every minute. Well, just about every minute of it. And the thing that was a challenge for me was, I've got two at that. Early on, I had two little girls. Now they're one's an adult and one's a high schooler, and I was missing a lot of good stuff, as my wife used to tell me. You're missing so much good stuff, and so I was traveling 150, 200 nights a year. And so I would leave Sunday night and I'd be gone until Thursday night or Friday morning, depending on if I wanted to catch the red eye back to wherever I was from or wherever I was. And so, in 2008, a very close friend of mine handed me the Purple Bible, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I read it, and it fundamentally changed the way I thought about pretty much everything on a professional level and in a financial journey level. Although I was terrified because, golden handcuffs, right? I was doing very well in my career. And I thought, there's no way that I can, replicate what I'm making here in software world, in the real estate world. So I figured I'd do it I'd dabble and I'd do it as a side hustle. So I would buy, I bought a multifamily on Clark Street in East Hartford, Connecticut, and that's the name of my company. And, over the course of about 7 years, I was flipping a few houses. I'd flip a couple houses and buy a multi, flip a couple houses, buy a multi. And pretty soon, the portfolio's income threw off enough cash flow that it surpassed what I was making in technology world. And so I went full time back in February of 2018, and Clark Street Properties, which was my side hustle, turned into Clark Street Capital. And the reason for that evolution was, probably like you, Billy, when you let your friends know that and colleagues know that you were going to focus on real estate. A lot of them came to me and said, "Hey, I want to invest," and I said, "Nah, not yet. Right? Let me go break stuff." And so, because it was a side hustle, it really wasn't a business. When I stopped working, if I took an afternoon off, everything stopped. Right. And so until, we had systems in place and a team and all that, I really wasn't comfortable taking outside capital. That changed about a year and a half ago. And so that was the evolution from Properties, which was the Ed Mathews show, to Capital, which is, a full-blown company that actually runs. I found out over the course of time, it runs without me when I want to take a day off. So it's good. And here we are today.
Yeah. So here we are today, and your company's running without you, and yeah, it can be actually really good.
Now I get to now I get to meet and speak with guys like you and talk about all the cool things we're working on, and my team makes sure that our residents are well cared for and the buildings are being managed, and our deal flow is solid, and we're talking with investors and making sure they're up to date with everything we're doing, and all that happens. It happens with me, but it also happens without me, which is like you, coming from the space we came from. I am totally wired towards systems, process, and procedures, right? And so it's we ran this company as a big company when it was just me and a virtual assistant, right? And everything was documented, everything, there's a checklist for everything. Those have since been evolved. And so now we're in a position where we're actually a full-blown company, 10 people strong.
So, this is one of these things. And so as you talk about, number of people that are with you, and 10 people strong and serving, many, many, many more, I go back to this kind of thing, right? Because there are a lot of people that come from a very similar world that we came from, like you, and I mean corporate wise, which is, you're it's not uncommon for people to be, knocking down 7-figure salaries, especially when you're on the sales side of things. And most people aspire to those types of roles. And so I'm just curious what your experience was when you started saying to other people that were surrounded by you, like, hey, I'm actually looking to do something else outside of the normal job. Like, I guess, like, number one, I guess the first thing is, did you even dare say that to anybody else? And if you did, what were the reactions typically?
So I left DocuSign 4 months before they went public. And so, ranging from, my dad, who said, "Are you out of your ever loving mind?" Although he used a little more colorful.
I was going to say, are you sure?
And,
I want to guess he probably didn't use those words, but that's fine.
Yeah. I'm figuring this is a G-rated show.
Yeah, it's a G-rated show.
But I was crystal clear on what he thought. Yeah. I kind of kept it quiet on the professional side. I had a couple of people that, really close with, and I let them know I was thinking about it. But when the time came, I thought that it wasn't about money for me. It was about time freedom. Mm-hmm. And, I've been very blessed in my career and had, a pretty good cushion. And so, it gave me the flexibility to be able to, have, take this opportunity and risk and see if we could make it work. And, 5 years in, so far, so good. But the biggest challenge was pulling that plug, right? It was that 5 minutes before I had a conversation with my boss was, a little bit of a pucker situation. I was pretty nervous. Like, am I sure that I want to do this? Right. I've got, 2 kids who are college bound. One is in college now, and, a mortgage and a wife and, all that. And I've got a lot of responsibilities and, can I pull this off? And, the good news is that having spent that first 7 years, building, gave me the confidence and frankly, the wherewithal to be able to step outside and then move forward. So, I'm a big believer in cash flowing properties, and I'm living proof of why I believe in it, because, it's basically created a massive amount of time freedom for me.
Mm. Yeah. And so when you get these like massive amounts of time freedom and you value the additional time, right? I think that's one of the things that's important. I'm going to take a step. I was going to go somewhere else with this, but I'm going to ask you because you're here. Like when you were going through this, and so you kept it on the low, like me. I didn't tell a lot of people, and then really close family and friends and family, I guess is probably more like it. Start finding out about asking questions, stuff like that. How many people did you actually have around you that you felt like you could share with? And I don't mean the people that were curious about what you were doing, but like the people that you could go to and say, "Hey, look, I need help on this," because and the reason I say that is the context of the world that you were living in was an enterprise software world, but the world that you wanted to really start to explore and learn more about, it's like at the 180-degree opposite end, right? One is intangible, nobody touches it and pays hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in euros for it. And the other is like, it's a house on 123 Clark Street, right? To be able to, that you can actually go and touch and feel.
Right.
Just kind of want to know how you navigated that yourself.
So I'm a fairly reserved guy anyway, but I've been very lucky to have 5 or 6 really good mentors over the years. And there's been a lot that I've been able to apply from my technology travels to this business, because, the fact is, most people would tell you that you and I are in the real estate business, right? Yeah, that's kind of true. I'm in the marketing business, right? And so, I've spent the first 30 years of my life marketing. First 25 were, to senior level executives. And now I'm also talking to senior level executives, but I'm talking about their personal financial journey as opposed to their professional journey. And so there's a lot of commonality there. But in terms of my group, it was probably 5, maybe 6 people, including my wife.
And so having that small group of people, sometimes we can get in our own heads and we say we need, we've got to have 20 mentors and this and that. I mean, and you, depending on each individual, right? Every person's different, but with a high quality of individuals around you, mentorships, relationships that you built, and even your wife, it's being able to say, hey, listen, I've got this on my mind. I need to talk to you all about it. So that's great. Once again, you don't need really hundreds and hundreds of people. You just need the quality few. And Ed is a perfect example of it. So you talked a little bit about the software side of things. And I tend to agree with you. I think there's so many different positive things. I spent 26 years. And so we're right there more or less in that space. No, well, just by okay. Do I really win?
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
Did I really win? Okay. Hang on. At least you made me think about it. But there's so many things that they're positives that we take away. I mean, you're even talking about it now. Yeah. It's just, you're realizing that, yeah, okay, I spent in the enterprise software space, but actually it's taught me a lot about the spaces in the companies that you worked out, just like I worked at. It's about process, it's about understanding, it's about understanding marketing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But you specifically also had, really on an operational level, operated as COO. I'm curious as to kind of how that, having worked on the consulting sales side of things and then having to work on the operational things, how you tie that together and how that's even helping you to be even more operationally sound, I guess, or process driven or focused, so that you can provide the value for your clients.
Yeah. So my first managerial job, I was a nightmare to work for. Right. I was a micromanager. I thought I was the smartest kid in the room. Yeah. And I failed. Right. And I spoke with, and I'm still friends with a few of the people that. Some of the people that were working for me, and I asked them, stripes off, tell me where I got it wrong, and that was a long conversation. And so one of the things that I learned very early on was that I cannot be the smartest kid in the room, right? If I'm getting on a Zoom call, or we're meeting at a project site and I'm the smartest person standing there, we're in trouble, right? Mm-hmm. And so, like you were saying, I've gone to great lengths to surround myself with people who are more accomplished, smarter, more experienced than I am. And, it really comes down to, I'll tell you a quick story. When I graduated from college, my grandfather, who I was very close with, who's since passed, but he was notorious for taking you on a walk. And usually when he took me on a walk, I was either doing something stupid, I was in trouble, or, he wanted to talk about something good that happened and, wanted to create some perspective in my life. He was, a huge influence on my adulthood and childhood for that matter. And so I graduated from college, and he walks up to me and goes, hey, let's go for a walk. I'm like, okay, today's a good day. I'm not in trouble. All right, cool. Let's go for a walk. And he turned to me and now my grandfather was 6'4", 6'5", Marine Master Sergeant, deep bellowing voice. He could be pretty intimidating when he wanted to be, although he
got your attention pretty easily, I'm going to guess.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir. No, sir. Right. Yeah, exactly. And so he said, he turned to me and goes, now he never went to college, right? He went from his parents' apartment to the Marine Corps to Ma Bell and worked there for 45, 50 years and then retired. And so, but he was the smartest guy I ever met. And he certainly was the wisest man I ever knew. And so he turned to me and he said, you think you're pretty smart? And I was kind of taken aback. I'm like, well, I just graduated from this pretty good school. So yeah, I'm pretty smart. Right. Mm-hmm. And he goes, do me a favor. He said, I'm going to see you. This was like early May of 1994. Mm-hmm. He said, I'm going to see you at Christmas time. Right. So do me a favor. Whenever you're in line or at a restaurant or at the drugstore in line and you see some gray hair in front of you, strike up a 3-minute conversation with them and just pick their brain. Introduce yourself, be friendly. And I can gab with anybody. So that was not a problem. I took the challenge. And, it's amazing who you meet and the stories you hear when you just open your ears and ask a couple of questions. Right. And so, the way that I was approaching these folks was I was asking questions because I figured that was the least threatening, I'm a pretty big guy too. I'm 6'4", block the sun kind of large. So I can be a little, it's a little weird when that big guy walks up and starts asking, a normal sized human being questions. Right.
Yeah.
And so, I had amazing conversations, dozens and dozens and dozens of conversations, and came back at Christmas time and, saw my grandfather across the room at the family gathering. And it's like, all right, let's go for a walk. And I was like, all right, well, probably not in trouble. So cool.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. He wanted to talk to me about the thing. And he goes, so did you do what I asked you to do? I said, yes, sir, I did. He goes, how smart are you? And I said, not smart at all. I've got a lot to learn. He goes, okay, good, move on. And that was it, right? And so the whole idea here is to surround yourself with people who are smarter than you, who are more accomplished, and frankly, coming from a place of abundance, right? Because the most interesting thing about my relationships with the mentors that I've had, both on the technology side as well as here in real estate world, is that, they never wanted anything from me, right? I popped up on their radar for usually one of two reasons, I assume. One is they saw something in me and they liked me, or they took pity on me and liked me enough to throw an arm around me, right? And I've had both those relationships, right? And but the bottom line is that the biggest thing is that I've had some really amazing human beings teach me some very hard to hear lessons over the course of the last 25 years. And they never wanted a thing other than every once in a while that a couple of them would let me buy them a cup of coffee or breakfast in the morning, right? And over while we're talking. And so one of the things that I am committed to, and why I do my podcasts and a whole bunch of other mentoring stuff, is to pay them back, because they didn't want anything from me. I wanted to offer a piece of the general partnership, and they're like, no, we don't want that. Just go do it for somebody else. And to a person, they said that, which obviously is, gives you an indication of how high quality these people are.
Yeah, you know what? And so this is the thing that I've found to be the case. And so you said something earlier. When you have high quality people around you, and I actually wrote it down and said, they didn't want anything, question mark. And in a very nice way, and I guess you can do this on your show because it's your show and I'll do this on my show. I'm going to very gently push back on you and say, of course they wanted something. Everybody always wants something. What they wanted was actually see you take the knowledge and put it into action. Right. And which is like the part that you're talking about now, because there is something that, when you're mentoring someone, when you're coaching someone, it's not just about the exchange of time or capital or whatever it is. It's really about how can you help the person that you're exchanging your time with and see them actually go out and take what you're talking about and put it into action. Whether it goes in the direction you wanted or not, that person is going to get more experience. And so that helps you as a mentor or coach who want to continue to do more. Does that seem fair?
I agree with that, because that, what I get out of doing that for other people is the juice of, wow, that actually worked. All right, cool. It worked for me. It worked for them, good on them. And hopefully they pass it forward to somebody else. And it continues. Right.
Well, that's awesome. So listen, we could take this a lot of different ways, and eventually we got to get to the Going Long Final Three. But I know that you've also, and I know I kind of chatted about it in the very beginning, that you have jumped into this world, podcasting, sharing, and we talked about at the very beginning, the real estate underground. Talk to us a little bit about it, and you kind of led with it now. But kind of what was your driver, your desire to say, hey, I'm going to go out and do it. And the reason I share that is because I was scared when I was in my corporate role for such a long time. And I kept thinking about, I want to do it. But I was like, I'm afraid if they hear me, if they see me, I was like, there's so many people that didn't even notice until later they ended up noticing. But talk to us about your desire to jump into the podcast arena, and kind of what are some of the things that you're learning or right now?
So it was an interesting experience. It has been. So I think we've recorded about 95 episodes. I think about 75 of them are live.
Congrats.
And so thank you. And so, we're pretty early on still. But what drove me was education, right? I want to, one of the awesome things about CTRIA, the Connecticut Real Estate Investor Association, and the mentoring that I do is that I get to help, most of the people I affectionately refer to as the dreamers, right? The ones that stop you in the grocery store and say, "Hey, man, I saw you online, and I just wish I could do what you do for a living," right? And my question is always, well, what's stopping you, right? Mm-hmm. And so then that comes into that rolls into a conversation. But it focused on wanting to educate, and partly selfishly, right? Because again, I want to surround myself with people who are smarter and more accomplished. And part in terms of abundance, I wanted to make sure that I was helping other people as well, because I think that we're all reading the same book when it comes to this industry. You're a few chapters ahead of me. I'm a few chapters ahead of somebody else. And so, part of what the podcast was looking to do was help you compress that time frame to jump from chapter to chapter to chapter. If you can catch up to me, great. If you can surpass me, awesome. Then you get to be on my show. And so that's where it started. The thing that I've realized is really cool is that I get to meet some amazingly successful and smart and honorable people who might not return my phone call if I didn't have a podcast. So, it's a sneaky way to meet some really cool people. In addition, on the Selfridge side.
Yeah. And, and it is one of those things. It is the opportunity to, you put yourself out there. You're providing a platform. You also have the opportunity to interact with people that maybe you like. I mean, just today, I don't know if you and I would have ever connected if this platform didn't exist, right. And et cetera, et cetera. And so there's always the opportunity to learn, to share, and ultimately to be able to have new theory that enters into your mind that you, right. As you're listening, watching, running, or doing whatever you're doing, you now have the opportunity to take what was being talked about and putting it into action. You're somebody who's been in an enterprise software role, and you've thought about, well, you know what? No one's really talking about this stuff around me, but I'm listening to these podcasts all by myself. Well, you have two examples of two people who've already walked the path, who've already figured out our path. It may not be your path, but at least you realize like, hey, look, you're investing this time. So take it from the theory and put it into action. So I appreciate you sharing that, because the podcast is, I really, I was nervous about it for a really, really long time. And eventually you get out there and you realize that, hey, look, there's so many awesome things that come from it. There's a lot of work that goes to it as well. But all in all, glad decided to do it and have an amazing team and things like that. Yep. So, Ed, man, I cannot believe, like, it's kind of, we got to get into the going long final three, man. This is one of these things we got to get into going long final three. And, but before we do that, well, you told us a little bit about Clark Street already. Anything that you want to add before we go into the going long final three? I don't ask that question very often, but anything you want to add? You feel like we should chat about, or you want to share?
One of the things that I'm always focused on is cash flow, right? And so, Clark Street, I tend to tell people, I don't know how politically correct it is, but, we buy crappy apartment buildings from landlords who aren't very good at their jobs, right? And, our job here is to improve those buildings, make them clean and safe, and upgrade them so that the folks that live there, and we try really hard to repair the relationships with those residents, they're proud to live in a Clark Street building. And so, I get to lay my head on the pillow every night with a clear conscience, knowing I'm doing a good thing, both for our residents as well as for our investor partners. And quite frankly, it allows us to be highly efficient and profitable with the buildings that we run, because, residents tend to be happy and they tend to stay, which saves us money on lease ups and turnovers and all that other stuff, make ready stuff. And so, that's really important to me, that, that I'm able to provide, clean and safe homes where people are proud to live. And so I figured I'd throw that in.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you sharing that. And now we're going to pivot to go to the going long final three, man. That was like kind of radio. That was kind of a radio voice. That's funny. I don't do that very often.
Yeah, that was nice.
So here's the thing. So because, Ed, you are our special guest, I never ask any of our special guests the going long final three unless you tell me that you're ready. So are you ready?
I'm ready.
Yeah. You were born ready, I'm pretty sure. So here we go. So we started with you in Connecticut. Now, I'm originally from Columbus, Ohio, but I've been calling Europe home for the last over 2 decades, which seems absolutely amazing at this point. maybe I would be one of those people that someone like touches on the shoulder, because I've got a gray hair or two. You can't see them right now, but maybe one of these days.
I have daughters, so that's part of it.
So I'd love for you to share with us, and I know you've traveled the globe as well. What is your favorite European city that you've either visited or still on your bucket list to visit?
So I love Denmark. So the company I worked for, there was a company I worked for that was their parent company was in Aarhus, which is the second largest city in Denmark. It's where Tivoli Gardens is and a whole bunch of amazing sites. And there had been more than one time there where I was purposefully showing up a day early or purposely dragging my feet to catch a later flight so that I could go and meet the people and enjoy the food and libations and also to just experience the history of that place. It's an amazing country. The people are people talk about Midwestern friendly. Don't hold and that's true. It does exist. They don't hold a candle to the people in Denmark. It's just a generous, wonderfully wonderful country. So
hang on a second, because I'm a Midwestern guy and I've been to Denmark as well. So no, I'm kidding.
Where'd you go? You must have went to Copenhagen, because I've never been there. But.
No. I did go to Copenhagen. I went outside of Copenhagen. We'll talk about that off camera as well. Which was you know what? When you have such positive experiences and you go to locations where you say, hey, look, I would like to show up a day early or stay a day late, that it's the type of place where you're like, wow, and I want other people to experience this. So I appreciate you sharing with us. Second question has to do with just we all try things. Those of us that want to continue to grow. And so along the way, sometimes there are times where you had a strategy or you tried something and it didn't work out exactly as you liked. So either you made a mistake or you had a learning opportunity. And I really don't want you to focus on what it was that you did, but more importantly is what you learned as a result of that. What's the one lesson that you would share with the Going Long family today that we need to hear?
So I am maniacal about vetting the people that we let into operate our company. It's actually starting to grow, the Clark Street way. And, one of the mistakes I made over the years is, and I made it once, and so far, knock on wood, I've yet to make it again. And that was, not only is it important to understand the capabilities and the character of the people that you hire directly, but also the people that they hire. And so I can tell you the story, but let's just say that it resulted in a partially collapsed building. Thankfully, no one was hurt, and a 3-year long journey of heartache and stress and eventually a good outcome. But the mistake I made was not vetting the subcontractors to my GC. And someone made a really big mistake. So, but for the grace of God, no one was hurt.
This is the part of being able to share that, and appreciate you sharing that with us today, because that is the lesson. So, and then question number 3, and this is really to wrap things up, Ed, helping us to fill our brains with knowledge. So, what is one book that you would recommend to the Going Long family today?
I just read Pitch Anything by Warren Claff, probably about 4 or 5 months ago. And it was amazing. He's a professional capital raiser in our world, right? Yeah. But the lessons I took from that are invaluable. It basically put my ability to communicate to potential partners on steroids, just using the clarity and the messaging that in his framework in terms of how he communicates opportunity was really powerful. Outstanding book.
Fantastic. So Pitch Anything, we'll include that in the show notes. So don't worry, everybody, it's going to be there, and you will absolutely get it. Absolutely get it. And so I'm sure this happens to you all the time, Ed. Like, these conversations literally fly by, so fast. I'm thinking about the very beginning. You're talking about your 24 years. I'm thinking he did 24 hours, 26 years in enterprise software sales. And you're thinking about I think you said something about 150 to 200 nights that you were spending. You were flying out on Sundays and back on Thursday, Friday. And so you had a lot of moments where you're traveling and things that you were doing and moving the family forward. And at the same time, as you heard, things that you're missing, and there are things that you're not here for. And you said, okay, well, you know what? You're going to continue to do that. You enjoyed it. You had a number of different roles. You were very, and I will say privileged that because you shared a similar type of space in the enterprise software space for so many different years, adding so much value, being able to see not just from a consulting, from a sales, from an operations perspective, and being able to tie those together, focusing on process, looking for outcomes. And those are skills that you were able to transfer into the new world. And back when you started in 2007, you're like, hey, look, I want to actually, 2007, I think you said. And then February 2018 is when you kind of said, hey, look, I'm going to do something in my own way and do this the way that I want. And so not only were you able to leverage the positive aspects of the area that you're working for and the area and the industries that you were in, but now you're seeing the way that you, as you mentioned before, the Clark Street way, that you're able to make a positive impact on others. And so I know you're talking about it, and I know the Going Long family is like, yeah, Billy, why does it always take you so long just to ask the question? So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to ask the question. What is the best way for the Going Long family to find out more about what it is that you do, find out more about the Clark Street way, et cetera, et cetera?
Oh, awesome. Thank you. So our website is usually the best way to get a hold of me or my team. That's clarkst.com. I'm also very active on social media. So I'm Ed Mathews or Ed Mathews 4 on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. And then actually, as far as our company goes, Clark Street Capital is our moniker on all the various social channels. And we're highly responsive and looking forward to hearing from folks if we can be of service.
All right, fantastic. Well, listen, Ed, we're going to include those ways to contact you in the show notes. So we'll make it very, very easy, simple for everybody. So don't worry, don't freak out. You'll be able to reach out to Ed and his team very, very easily. But I would like to just say thank you very much for deciding to invest your time with me and the entire Going Long family today. So I really appreciate it, Ed. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Good to see you, Billy.
All right, perfect. Give me just like 10 seconds, please. So Going Long family, I mean, Ed couldn't have made it any easier for you to follow what he was putting down, especially if like you're someone who started in the enterprise software space. Like listen to the stuff that he was sharing with you, how those skills are transferable and how you can continue to learn more about creating your own path while you are also performing in your day work job. Take the episode, share it with 2 or 3 other people. Heck, share it with 5 to 10 other people, but talk about it. Take the theory, put it into action. While you're doing that, I'll be here preparing for the next conversation. So until then, go out and make it a great day. And thank you very much.